Mm.
All right, sorry for the delay, guys. We're just about there. And yep, everyone's seated. Okay, hello, welcome. My name is Helen. I am the head of marketing here at Jasco, and I'm sure a few of you have already heard my voice on the phone, annoying you and emailing you and making sure that you all get here. So thank you so much for making your way out here at Telstra this morning, and welcome. So as you've seen, we've got the Adapt signs around, and basically what Adapt is through Jasco is your workplace transformation masterclass. Through JascoAdapt, what we aim to do is to empower our current customers and all our future customers to adopt and adapt to the latest innovative solutions out in the market. One of our missions, or our mission here at Jasco, is that we allow our customers to be successful through technology. And how we do that is through the data-driven process era. So as you all know, we are entering a cloud-driven era. And today, what we have presented here for you is where you guys can embrace the cloud and the journey and the transition to the cloud. Part of the reason that we actually have a strategic partnership, which we announced last week or the week before, is with Visilia, who you'll be hearing from a bit later on. We have Michael Verso, the CEO, who'll be here. Part of that partnership is because we want to provide our customers with the value that is within Microsoft Teams. And the value of the cloud will show through with Power Apps and custom apps and the data-driven processes. There was I don't know if you've heard of the McKinsey Institute, but there's a report that says that organizations are 23 times more likely to retain their customers by using data-driven processes. That's a huge statistic, and that's something that you guys can all also have the same result. You can also retain your customers and have new customers through using data-driven processes. I think that's all I've got for you today. Sorry, guys. So thank you so much again to making it out here today. Without further ado, let me introduce our first speaker. Unfortunately, we were supposed to have Kevin Teo, which I'm sure a lot of you would have seen on our flyers, but he wasn't able to make it this morning. But we do have James Nation-Ingle, who is the Microsoft Deep Domain Lead. And let me welcome him up to the front. Thanks, James.
Thanks very much. Welcome to Telstra. Thanks for coming along. Really appreciate you coming out. Thanks to Jason and Jasco for inviting me to fill in for my esteemed leader, Kevin. It's a really great op. I appreciate you guys having me here. So I'm James. What I do for Telstra is I look after part of our Microsoft relationship, mainly the customer-facing side of it. I haven't always been in IT. A little bit about me is I am a trained musician and an actor. So when I first got out of university, I went into the music industry, and I was going to be a recording artist, and I was going to be the next big thing. It was fantastic. Tell you what, so I started recording, I started touring. I realised, and you're probably picking up around my age, I realised that my colleagues and the people that I was working with when I was recording and starting to release music, I'm from New Zealand. I was lucky enough to be in a band. We had some songs on the radio. But we realised that the check that was coming from the amount of plays that we were getting from our songs was about $1.60 a year. The reason for that was the internet had come along and people were starting to download music, and this thing called Napster was breaking the back of our industry. So I was affected by technological change. And I'd spent 7 years studying it. I'd invested $100,000 of my own money into getting into the industry, and technology was breaking the back of it. So I came to Australia and I had a relatively good career, but fast forward 10 years and I had to make the change. I had to make a change. Had kids come along. I made a change to move into technology. I moved into the Microsoft space. Now, that is probably 10 years ago from now. So at the time, we had Exchange 2010, it was built on service. We had Link, Microsoft Link, with 3G. I had the iPhone 3GS at the time. It was a fantastic device. This thing was a game changer. I could suddenly do, my job from my phone, and it was a fantastic thing. I had a really great business coach, and that business coach, I remember, I had very little technological understanding at the time. I remember him taking me into the server room at our office and saying, "This is the server that the Exchange has built. That's all of our emails. This is the server where our Link is built. That's where we get our instant message, our presence, and our telephone calls, our Link 2010. He said, "Oh, and by the way, you're spending some time learning what all these servers do at the moment. In a couple of years, these things will go out the window because everything will be in the cloud." So suddenly I'd introduced myself into a new industry where technology was changing the way that I was going to work and what I was doing and what I was learning. I've been in this industry now for 10 years. I'm now lucky enough to work for Telstra. And I'm now lucky enough to work at Telstra in a time where Link 2010 is now, or it was Skype for Business, and then became Microsoft Teams and is now Microsoft Teams. My iPhone 3GS is now about to be a 5G device. So the one thing that's been consistent through my 20-odd year career is that I've always been a child of change. And change is something that I've now accepted as part of my life and as part of my career. What we do at Telstra with Teams, it represents that change. So welcome. Today you're going to see some people speak about technologies that represent change. One of the things that I represent for Telstra is a product that we've released into the market called Telstra Calling for Office 365. Telstra Calling for Office 365 is basically a connection between Microsoft Teams and the public telephone network. It's a cloud-only service. And I get asked a lot, why did Telstra and Microsoft do what they did with the public telephone network and Telstra Calling? Why did they pick it up and they put it in the cloud? Well, it makes a whole lot of sense, right? We needed to not make voice that last thing that was sitting on premise. Because now your emails, if your emails aren't in the cloud now, you've got rocks in your head. And everything else is, this is the pattern that we see. Telstra and Microsoft together have a cloud-first vision. And so therefore, Telstra Calling for Office 365 represents the public telephone network in a cloud-first way. One of the things that having Telstra Calling in the market with Microsoft Teams has prepared us for is for workers to be ready for 5G. There's no backwards things about it. 5G is going to be the biggest thing for Telstra in the next few years. The reason why 5G is going to be the biggest thing for Telstra in the next few years isn't because everyone wants to browse faster, everyone wants to do things faster. It's about the fact that everything that I do day to day now as a person, as a worker, lives in the cloud. So I need to get me, and my IT managers at Telstra need to get me closer to the stuff that I use. I don't sit there and go, I need more bandwidth. What I do is I sit there and I need my customer information faster. But I also need the flexibility. I need to be able to pick up my phone and work wherever I need to go. I have 2 kids. I do the majority of my work from home or on the road. I don't come into the office very often. That used to not be a common thing. Now, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that doesn't work flexibly, doesn't work in a mobile way. So the combination of Microsoft Teams as a way to consume your apps and a primary connection that is wireless like 5G, and that's the cultural shift that we see. That's what we're planning for. We're planning for 5G to become a primary mechanism for connection to services, to the internet, to networks as opposed to being attached to a blue cable that's somewhere. So when we talk about those three things, you'll know that Telstra's been changing in the market. And it's really, really important to point out where our partners fit for us. Jasco is a key partner of Telstra's. Microsoft is a key partner of Telstra's. We are a key partner for Microsoft. Jasco is a key partner for Microsoft also. We get this thing where Microsoft, it's pretty clear why Microsoft needs Telstra, pretty clear why Telstra needs Microsoft. In terms of the partners, we need the partners to show the value of what we do to our customers. If you look at market trends, if you go down to the shop downstairs and go and ask for a consumer mobile phone, what the consumer market's telling us right now is customers don't want to be locked into 12, 24, 5-year contracts anymore. They want flexibility to move and the flexibility to get new features and get new services and have constant improvement in the services that they're consuming. Now, that's something that we're seeing from just the public, the retail sector. Our retail business is telling us people don't want to be locked in. People want to be constantly achieving value. That's kind of what we lean on our partners for, is that now that we are starting to bring this contractless world into our enterprise business, we desperately, Microsoft and Telstra desperately need really good ways to constantly show value to our customers. Because the only way in the future, and we're changing our whole business because of it, the only way now and in the future for us to retain good partners and good customers is to retain them by showing value and showing value constantly. And that's what our partner network is for. Our partners have a really good track record of being deep with our customers, our combined customers, understanding the customers' businesses. So therefore, Microsoft and Telstra, we rely on our channel networks to constantly drive that value. And the importance of that value is growing because that's now how we're going to retain our customers. So I hope you get something out of today. You're going to see some really cool stuff from some colleagues, ex-colleagues of mine, Gavin and Michael. Actually, interestingly, a lot of the things that I know about tech, Gav taught me in a previous life. So this man has the patience of a saint. He sat with me in front of many PCs and told me things 10 times. So I learned a lot. So hopefully you get something out of today. In fact, I know that you're going to get something to take away out of today. Enjoy it. And feel free to if you see us around, bump into us, grab and ask any questions that you've got. We can go. Jahan's here from Microsoft as well. He's going to speak, so you can give the Microsoft view on things. You're in great hands for the next few hours, so enjoy it. Cheers.
Thanks so much for that, James. And next, I would just like to welcome Jahan. He is the partner technical architect at Microsoft. He's flown all the way from Sydney, so thank you so much. And off you go. Thanks.
Well, this guy doesn't want to listen. I'll let you do that, and I will start talking. Cool. Welcome, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay? I do talk a little loud, so I don't think I need this, but still I'll use it. So I'm Jahan Sheikh from Microsoft. My role at Microsoft is a partner technical architect. So it's essentially an architect for partners, and the technology I work with is solely Teams. So when it comes to Teams, it could be about calling in meetings, which we're going to be talking about today, and Telstra calling. And it's also about adoption and change management, which has become a big part of what we do with Teams today, because not only do we want to ensure that we're selling Teams, we want to make sure that the end users are consuming Teams. And then thirdly, I do focus on custom application development on Teams as well. So today I want to take some time to talk to you guys about why Teams. So we're going to look at it from a bit of a different angle. We got it up? It's all right. I can flip it. Yeah. So why Teams? So if you guys don't decide to go Teams, What will your organization look like today, 5 years from now, and so on. So we'll try to attack it from a different angle today. How many times have you guys heard this saying, the world is changing and digital transformation? I think quite a lot. I hear it at least 2 or 3 times a day. And no matter who you ask, the interesting thing about this is no matter who you ask, digital transformation means something different for everyone. I'll tell you what digital transformation means for me, or at least the way I look at it. Back in 2007, when Apple released its first iPhone, I feel like that was when the world transformed for me in my generation, at least. That changed the way we use technology today. So that's how I look at it. Absolutely, you guys can think about what it means to you as well. We do, however, we can, take a deeper look into this as well, and really understand what digital transformation means. We can divide it into 2 different areas, one being the business transformation and the second one being the IT transformation. So let's focus on the business transformation aspect of it first, because I think that's quite important. What is a business trying to do? They're trying to make money, stay ahead of the game. They want to use the most innovative technology that's out there to achieve the business goals that they're looking for. IT transformation, it's really an enabler for the business to transform, right? And a lot of the times we are finding that the IT does not want to transform the business or is hindering from the business to transform. So and we can also look at it from another angle, which is what is not business transformation. So when a business is operating the way they've been operating for years and years, they don't want to change that. And essentially, they're looking at a feature to feature comparison with some of the new technologies out there, saying, okay, well, we've been able to make these phone calls from our phone. I can do all this cool, this stuff with it. I want to be able to get the exact same thing out of whether it's Link or Skype for Business or Teams, and that's all I want to do. They're not looking at it from a different lens. They're not looking at it holistically in order to change their business. If they don't look at it from that sense, what would happen to that business? Someone will essentially come in and disrupt their business, right? So if we take, for an example, Reed Hastings, who's the CEO of Netflix. So back in the day, he actually went to Blockbuster and he offered them a very large stake, essentially a one-to-one partnership with Netflix. And Blockbuster said, no, we're not going to do that. And if, Reed Hastings, all he did was, let's just see how we can one-up Blockbuster, or if we make our DVDs cheaper or whatever, VHS cheaper. But that's not what he did. He looked at other ways to transform his business. And you can see the rest is history. Where is Blockbuster today? Where is Netflix? So, and also we never thought that, Uber or Airbnb are going to come in and disrupt industries like taxi or hotel industry, hospitality industry. That's massive. So in a nutshell, IT then has to become a source of innovation and really do their research and provide that back to the business in order to help them transform into something else. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look into that aspect of it and how IT can essentially help the business. If we look on the left side here, that's how a normal business operates today. They create a unique product or a service. They want to deliver that to their customers, to their shareholders. They want to ensure that they get the best ROI possible while they're still trying to innovate, right? So these guys, while they're busy doing that, do you really think they care about, what Microsoft licensing we're consuming, what Cisco IP handsets we've got, what technology we're using? They really don't care about that stuff. They just want to make sure that they are staying profitable and they're staying ahead of the game, ahead of their competitors. And I feel like a lot of you would like to probably do the same or in a similar state. So then if we look at the digital technology that's out there, it's changing quite rapidly, right? James touched on that a little bit as well. It's changed, day by day. We're seeing new and new technologies pop up. So how do we keep up with that, right? The IT then does the research for that technology to understand what's out there, what's latest and greatest. And I think they do a fairly good job at that today, right? But also what the IT needs to do is to understand how the business works. What are the business outcomes that, what is the core business that they're running today? When they do figure that out, they then need to marry the two worlds, the digital technology to the business goals that the business is looking to achieve. How do they do that? They need to be driving that demand for change. So they need to say, look, we understand this is what you guys are trying to achieve, and we've got these X, Y, and Z tools that we feel will make you guys a lot more effective and be able to do that a lot better. And then they have to present it, second point being, they have to present it as an opportunity and not a challenge, right? So that's a pretty big one. If the IT goes to the business decision makers and they tell them, hey guys, by the way, you'll start seeing this purple icon. Some call it Barney. I don't know why. I've heard many different things for Teams. You're going to start seeing this icon on your desktop. We just want you to start using it, by the way. All's good. Yeah, we got this new tool that we're rolling out. How do you think that would go? And that's happened, actually. That's happened, and we've heard some horror stories around that as well. Doesn't go too well. Doesn't sit too well with the business. They say, no, you're essentially coming in and disrupting the way we're working. Why would we want to do that? We're okay with picking up the phone, making calls, and doing how we're doing things today. So if you present it as an opportunity, so if the IT understands where the pain points are today, and they then provide that as an opportunity, the business is more likely to adopt to that technology. And it all has to come and be backed up by a strategy, right? By doing some research, we've also found out that there's two types of organizations. One is a less mature digital organization, and then the second one is a more mature digital organization. So some of the less mature digital organization, I've touched on it a little bit, and I'll go into it a little bit further, are the ones that essentially are saying, we have been doing things like this for 15 years. We've got our IP phones on our desks. We know how to make calls. We know how to put someone on hold and this, and we're, that's all we want to do. We don't want any change in that. Well, now our phones are end of life, our system's end of life. What we're going to do is we're going to look for another replacement that'll last another 5 years. We're good to go with the way we are. They're not really open to understanding what's really out there that can make them do what they're doing effectively. So, and then another point there also is, and we've heard this over and over again, where they've also said, look, we've got, we've just bought 20 video endpoints, and from vendor A, let's say, and we would love to go with vendor B for our collaboration needs, but doesn't really work with our video equipment, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you know what? We're not going to go with that. But what they fail to understand is that by going to vendor B, they're actually going to be saving millions in productivity and efficiency. So that's a little bit on the less mature digital organization, and they're not thinking of it holistically. With the more mature digital organization, they're really understanding how it is that they're able to transform themselves through the use of technology. So these ones, Microsoft loves them. I'm sure Jasco loves them. And that's where we want everyone to be. We want everyone to be vendor agnostic, right? We want you guys to think efficient tools that will help you get there. Whenever I talk to partners, whenever I talk to customers, I don't talk about, hey, Teams, by the way, Teams can do this for you. Teams can do that for you. It doesn't sit well. It doesn't resonate. Rather, I say, okay, think about where you guys are today and what goals you're trying to achieve, and let's map that out to the technology that's out there. Sometimes Teams may not be right for you, right? So in that sense, we have to really think about where the customer is in their journey. Now, if we shift gears a little bit and talk about Microsoft Teams, when we talk about digital transformation at Microsoft, we categorize it across these four key areas. Engaging customers. So how do we make sure that the customers are able to talk to their end users, they're able to talk to their other customers, other businesses effectively? How do we empower the employees to be connected anywhere, to have a modern workplace, to be able to access their tools across all devices as well? And optimize operation. So really, how do we make these businesses more efficient? How do we save you some costs on operating? And also transforming products. So out of the box, Teams actually covers quite well how we engage customers, empower employees, and optimize operations. So with engaging customers, we've kept a open, federation, so you guys are able to communicate with your customers and message them, whether they're on Skype for Business, whether they're on Teams. We empower employees by keeping the consistent experience across all devices for Teams as well. We optimize operations, so we've got meeting rooms that the Polygang will get into later on today as well, where you don't have to really fly out anymore, right, to be doing these meetings when you can just do it over a Teams meeting room. And so Teams covers that quite well, but indirectly, we're also helping transform products as well by creating new opportunities on Teams. And that's a really important point, which Michael will get into later on today, on how we really use Teams to extend the capabilities that are there today. So by building applications that connect with your line of business, by building applications on technologies like HoloLens, and so on. So why did we make Teams? Why do we create Teams when we think of it? Did we just, did the executive just wake up one morning and said, we need another tool? We don't have enough tools. I think we've got enough tools. We got plenty of tools, maybe a little too many. No, a lot of research went into it, right? A lot of research went into why we've created Teams today. There is, for the first time, there's 5 different generations working in the workforce together, and they all demand to work differently. Everyone wants to work their own way that they're used to working. It's a much more mobile and distributed workforce, with 72% of workers that will be working remotely by 2020. I feel like that's, we've already hit that and maybe past that, at least from a Microsoft perspective in the industry that we're in. We have 4 times as many devices, or even more. I've got, smartwatch, a Surface device, a iPad. I got way more than 4. I'm not going to go into the details of it all. And everything is becoming more team-based and collaborative. There's 2 times as many teams. I'm a part of way more than that, but there's absolutely a lot more collaboration happening. And 80% of the employee time is spent collaborating. So it's not really a single person can't get things done anymore. It's just not the way we work. We're spending a lot more time collaborating. And you may say, if you're a masseuse, you are a single person effectively helping people. So in that sense, you're okay. But for the majority of the people, a lot of that time is spent collaborating. So keeping that in mind, there was a driving demand for change that we felt could be covered by the digital technology, which is why we've built Teams. So a modern day information worker, what are they looking for in a work environment that they feel comfortable in today? The first part, then it really becomes about knowledge. How do we keep a knowledge base? How do we keep everything, a history of everything that we're talking about? How do we distribute that knowledge effectively and use that knowledge effectively? It has to provide a complete meeting experience. No one wants to go into a meeting room anymore and spend at least 10 minutes trying to figure out, does this camera work? How do I connect the meeting? How do I invite people? How do I join a meeting? That's a thing of the past, right? Now we want to go in, we want to ensure that we can press that one join button and join that meeting. We want it to be as easy as possible. We want to save time. Enterprise grade voice and video. A soft phone is now a reality. It's not a nice to have sort of thing. It was in the past, but now we're using our mobile phones quite a bit, and we're not using the desk phones anymore. So we want to ensure that the quality we get with these soft phones, are enterprise grade, the same or even better than what we're used to before. A single workspace that's tailored to you, which is fully integrated and gives the cross-device support. So if I'm using my Teams client on my mobile, I want to be able to make sure that if I am, let's say, visiting a friend that doesn't have the Teams client installed, if I log in from the web, I want to still be able to get the same experience and have my documents follow me. I want to be able to make sure that I can start working on those documents right away, rather than installing the client, downloading documents, so on and so forth. So with Teams, all your documents follow you, since they're living on SharePoint and OneDrive. So you have access to that on any device that you'd like. And all that, obviously, backed by cognitive services and machine learning. You don't want to be doing the same thing over and over again. You want the system to be a bit smart as well. You want to make sure that they're learning your habits so that they're able to effectively make you more effective. So we did a study, and with one of the biggest customers here in Australia. You could probably guess who it is. One of the major telcos. I won't name anyone. But they did quite a few interviews with the IT and also the business to find out, what is it that they're, what's the workplace of the past? What's the workplace that they'd like to see today? And then on the next slide, there's a few more things that I've taken down on what's the workplace they're looking to achieve in the future. So if you could read this, you can read this through, and also a few things that they said would be really nice to have in the near future. After doing this study, they compared a few different platforms, collaboration platforms, and they found that Teams can effectively deliver the workplace that they're looking for today and the workplace that they're looking for in the future. And a lot of the other things that it can't do today are on the roadmap to be out soon, so that they'll be able to do that shortly as well. And after that, they did end up deploying Teams, spoiler alert, and they're using it today. So I just want to highlight, and I'll just build that slide out. So I just want to highlight here that Teams isn't just a replacement for Skype for Business, right? It's not just a replacement for telephony. It may very well do that for you, and it will do that for you effectively, because it will do everything that Skype for Business can do today. But it's much more than that. It's got the collaboration. We want to ensure that it's the hub for collaboration for you guys. I don't know if you guys heard Satya talk over at Inspire. We had that in July in Vegas. But during his keynote, he actually mentioned that we can see Teams as being the next platform for Microsoft, where people use that as the hub for teamwork and collaboration and really build apps on it and extend the capabilities of Teams. And obviously, it's all backed by the security that's there in Microsoft 365 today. This is more of a visualization on what I just talked about. So if you look at it on the left side, the unified communication part, again, it will do it very effectively. It will become your enterprise-grade telephony system, whether you choose to do it on just the soft phones, whether you want to use desk phones. We've got great team phones, whether you want to make it your meeting room solution. We've got great Microsoft Team Rooms to do that for you guys as well. So it will absolutely do that. But I also want to point out the information and collaboration hub, right? So depending on where you guys are in your journey today, if you guys have some tools, that you say, okay, we're using Box today, or we're using Google Drive today for our storage. It's all there and it integrates well with Teams today. So it doesn't matter where you guys are with your journey today. We're not asking you guys to rip and replace what you have there today. It will integrate well with Teams. So if it's a storage, let's say you're using Box, why pay for that when it's included in your e-subscription from Microsoft, right? So once you're ready to start using OneDrive, you're then able to migrate everything, and it will obviously work natively with Teams as well. The extensibility and API. So you are absolutely able to build apps that connect with your line of business and make you more efficient. And again, Mike will go into that later today, so I don't want to steal his thunder. There's quite a bit of session on that. I know it's the same slide, but just a different message there, and it's an important message. That's why I want to cover it. While Teams is good for every user, it's not the same for every user, right? So again, thinking that anyone can pick up Teams and start using it, that's not the best way to go about it, right? We want to make sure that Teams is rolled out effectively. So if you look here in this scenario, sales teams may benefit a lot more from the unified communications piece, right? They'll be on the phone quite a bit. They're going to be making calls. Whereas the developers, they're really going to want to be the champions of the company. They want to develop some applications that help the business achieve their goals and really look and stand out as champions of the company and make themselves look good effectively, right? There's not much us IT folks can do to make ourselves look good. So whatever we can do, whatever little we can do, it really helps. And then what am I missing? The operations team can really help from the collaboration and effectively use the collaboration hub as well, a lot more. Now I'll travel this side. I do walk quite a bit, but I do have to change the slide. So in summary, you don't have to rip and replace and start using Teams and all the greatness from day one, right? This is where Jasco comes in, and they help you guys understand where you guys are in your journey today, whether it's short term, whether it's midterm or long term, and really help you plan that migration, or if you're already on Teams, they help you plan what that next step looks like for you. Because it's not, all simple. There's governance planning that has to go in. There is the team's lifecycle planning that has to go in. So there's a lot more that goes around in the background than just rolling it out to everyone. So absolutely plan for the different use cases and work with the team at Jasco to effectively do that. The last thought that I want to leave you guys with today is that Teams is actually the fastest growing business application in Microsoft history. So absolutely the fastest growing. That's massive. It's being used by over 500,000 organizations today. 91 of the Fortune 100 companies are using Teams today. It's supported in 44 different languages, and 150 customers have over 10,000 users. And Accenture has over 100,000 users that are using Teams today. Quite powerful numbers. That's all I have for you guys today.
Thanks for that, Jahan. Next up, we have Gavin McClintock, who is the Senior Enterprise Architect at Jasco. We also like to call him GG, which is Grumpy Gavin. So take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Is that microphone working? Is the microphone is working? Yes, as Helen mentioned, my name's Gavin McClintock. It's going to stick that, isn't it, GG? Just for folks that don't know Jasco, we are a system integrator and managed service provider that have been in the market for 21 years, just over 21 years. It was founded by my good brother standing in the back there. Yes, I do work with my brother. I've only worked for him for 12 of those 21 years. And we haven't yet had that conversation where we've come to blows. Our goal as a business, and we have some really long-term relationships with our customers, is to basically drive their efficiency through return on IT investment. We don't push technologies that are not appropriate for the business, and we do have some very long-term relationships with customers, a couple in the room here today as well. Why us? We have used the Microsoft UC Stack as our core telephony platform for, I think, since about 2008. Was the first time that our boss walked in and said to a previous CTO, there's this thing called OCS, we want you to deploy it, that's going to be our telephone system. So we have used it since then. So we've been heavily involved in that entire journey through OCS to OCS 2007 R2, to Link, to Skype Online, to Teams. So we've been on that journey along that time. And I was just thinking the other day, actually, it's coming up this November is 10 years since I did my first OCS 2007 R2 implementation through a Microsoft a Lighthouse Rapid Deployment Program for a council in the northern suburbs. So we do have a strong history in this. We've had a strong history in the application development. In various forms. Okay. Are we using telephony in any way in our Teams systems, or just using the internal peer-to-peer? Mostly peer-to-peer nodding, so we haven't got too much telephony in there. It may seem a little bit out of order, but I've got this slide here where using Teams and keeping up to date with the massive cadence change in the way that Microsoft are bringing new features into their products, in particularly in all of their Office 365 products, is very difficult. I get most of my information through the MVP and the Skype for Business, Teams, Unified Communications community on Twitter, but there's some great resources from Microsoft that actually show you what's going on and what's in development. And a key one of those is the Office 365 roadmap. So if you haven't found this website before, find it, and I'll give you some demos of that a little bit later. What this does is it actually lists the features that are in development, the features that are currently rolling out, and the features that have been deployed, so that you can actually see where you might say, I want secondary ringer in Teams. That's a deployment blocker. Before I can actually deploy voice, I need to have that secondary ringer feature. And you can see if where that's in the development cycle, where it's rolling out. And the dates are subject to change. I had one example where I was doing an envisaging session with a customer, and we were looking at sort of maybe some blockers. And we looked at this website on day one of the thing, and the dates were looking again good. We looked at this on the second day, the dates had blown out. So it's just something to keep there. But some of the new things that have come in to Teams from a technical perspective is the content camera in Teams meetings. So this is, and I don't know, Eric, we don't have the content camera, but we can plug a contact camera into any of the Teams meeting rooms, and we can aim that at a whiteboard. And what this does is actually uses AI to determine what the whiteboard is, enhance that whiteboard, and actually share that with other people in that conference, in that meeting. And if someone walks in front of the whiteboard, in front of the camera, it actually puts them into the background and does that. So the technology, I've actually noticed the way that when you first fire it up and it looks at it, very similar to Office Lens. Anyone use Office Lens? Yeah, so you take your whiteboard, you take a photo of your whiteboard and it squares it up, enhances it, makes it white, and the text more readable. And that's what we're doing with this. And I reckon that's a great feature. You can spend however much you want on a Service Hub 2S over there, or you can add a simple little camera to your room with your old analog whiteboard, and you've got that ability to share that through. Some of the other features I'll just quickly go through. One of the ones that's rolling out at the moment is to share audio. So when you're sharing your content or your desktop from into a Teams meeting, you can now, the audio from your system will actually go into the meeting as well. We shared into the meeting as well. So that's really good when you're playing videos or doing something like that, that will share through as well. Just a nice little one, the chat feature, we can now filter, we can search at the top of chat. For those who like to use the web browsers, we can call from Chrome. So that was a feature that you couldn't actually call from the Chrome browser up until recently. So that's something that's popped out in the last few months. Meet Now is another one. So for those of folks that use Skype for Business, you always used to initiate an ad hoc conference by clicking Meet Now. We can now do that in Teams. We can do that within a channel, and we can also do that from our calendar within Teams as well. And Secondary Ringer. And Secondary Ringer is a feature that was in Skype for Business. Does anyone know what that is? Yeah, some do, some don't. So when you're using a soft phone, one of the issues that a lot of folks have is when we plug our headset in, our Poly headset, and put it on, the system audio goes through that headset. So that when we actually get a telephone call or get an announcement, we don't actually hear any ringing on our PC because it's just popping into our headset. And if we're not wearing the headset all the time, sometimes you will miss that notification. So Skype for Business had a feature where it was you could enable a secondary ringer so that if your PC was even muted, that it would use your default speakers on your computer. Teams now has that function as well, which is fantastic from an adoption perspective. So voice in the cloud. We're using that collaboration and we're using the Teams for our internal collaboration and bringing that unified communication experience. By adding in voice into that, we've got a one-stop shop. So we're taking the dial tone from our legacy PBXs and we're now bringing that into a one-stop shop so that we're going to do all of our communication from the one application. In the end of that, we've got the best of both worlds. We've got all of our products in one. So when we look at taking what we're using Teams for our meetings and our chat, our document sharing and presence, we can now, with Telstra Calling for Office 365, inject in all of our calling needs for that as well. How does that look? How does that stack look? Across the top, we've got Office 365. And then you've got the two layers of applications that can actually use the telephony using Telstra Calling for Office 365, Microsoft Teams, and Skype for Business Online. Now, Skype for Business Online, Microsoft recently announced the end of support and the shutdown of that environment by July of 2021. So anyone who's using Skype for Business Online will need to migrate to Teams or to some other, I hope you move to Teams. But you will need to get off of Skype for Business Online by July of 2021. So if you're in that situation at the moment, start thinking about what your migration plan is and hopefully talk to one of our sales guys and myself about how we can get you there. A lot of customers are confused, assume that also applies to Skype for Business on-premises. That is not the case. Skype for Business Server on-premise is supported through to 2024-5. It keeps slipping out every now and again. So I think it's I looked at it yesterday, October of 2025 with extended support. All right, so we've got the Microsoft Teams layer, and then you've got the phone system layer underneath that, which is provided by Microsoft. It was calling Microsoft PBX, but it's simplified down to phone system. There's two ways that we can inject telephony into our Office 365 cloud. Through a technology called Teams Direct Routing, but also through Teams Direct Routing requires you to still to have components on premise. Whereas with Telstra calling from Office 365, we take all of our numbers out of our traditional telephony, whether that be ISDN or SIP, and we move those into the Office 365 cloud. Okay? And then everything is provided to you through Telstra and Microsoft, and we don't need to have any on-premise equipment. So people can access their telephony from wherever they are if you are using legacy PBX. So not having any equipment on-prem to what does it look like when you do have to have equipment on-prem. So from I guess, traditionally, if we were deploying Sky for Business on-prem, we would have to have our standard edition servers. If we wanted to provide remote access and collaboration to external parties, we need to have an edge server and a reverse proxy, an Office web app server, and an Exchange server to provide voicemail. So we've got at least 6 servers there that we need to deploy to give us some level of disaster recovery, but also to provide the same level of service if we were actually going, we would need that many servers. If we wanted to bring that into Office 365 and have our Skype users in Office 365, we had this really ugly thing called Cloud Connector Edition. It wasn't very nice. It was a very terrible way of injecting telephony into Office 365. When we talk about Telstra calling for Office 365, it's all in the cloud. As I mentioned, you do not need any components on-prem. You just need to make sure that your network and your environment supports that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But you can access it from anywhere and from any device, mobile, tablet, and also obviously from laptop, whether that be an Apple or PC Wintel-based unit. And you have access to the same level of calling that you had in your traditional dial-up telephony if you were just picking a handset up off your desk. For the techies under the hood, there's a fully meshed network that Telstra have implemented to provide Telstra calling for Office 365 and how they inject that into the the Microsoft Office 365 cloud as well. The SLA that Telstra give you for for TCO for 365 is actually higher than the SLA that Microsoft give you to access Office 365. So there is a lot of redundancy built into the network underneath there for that. One of the other catalysts for change that we're seeing for a lot of folks is ISDN. We've had our first round of ISDN cutoffs at the end of September. The wonderful world of NBN is forcing all ISDN to be cut off and all copper to be turned off by 2022. And Telstra have also announced that all of their ISDN services will cease by the end of 2022 as well. So we need to be thinking about that. If we're using ISDN, what does our future look like for those traditional telephonies as well? Just a very quick one on Teams Direct Routing. It is another way of bringing your telephony in, but I also see it as a really good way to complement Telstra calling for Office 365, particularly in coexistence scenarios. I'm working with a customer, I've worked with a customer, and we've done an assessment of their environment, and they have 3 telephony systems in their environment. They have a corporate, an operational, and I forget what the other one is, but one of those we can move to Office 365. The other 2 have to stay there. So we still need to provide connectivity between those other environments. So I've designed an environment where we're using Telstra calling for Office 365 with Teams Direct Routing to complement each other to be able to maintain that interoperability between the 2 environments. So, and that works for, say, contact center. If you've got a contact center that needs to stay on premise, we can use Teams Direct Routing to create an interoperability between Office 365 and TCO, and also what's happening with the contact center as well.
a really important thing to note about that is that Telstra support that model. So we absolutely, in those scenarios where there is complexity or where there is a genuine need to have Telstra calling and direct routing in the same environment, we will absolutely support that setup.
So how do we set it up? Do we just go ring up our Telstra exec, and there's a few in the room, and say, light me up? Are they going to say, I think you need to call Jasco and have a bit of a chat to Jasco, or well, I'm going to say other partners, but you're going to talk to Jasco. Because what we really need to do, before we light this up, we need to do a planning and readiness assessment. We need to look at your environment and identify where there's going to be potential issues in a cloud-first environment. When we're servicing this stuff from the cloud, what impacts are going to have on a network? Is my network, are my firewalls, are my internet links suitable for what I want to do here? So we have taken the practical guidance for cloud voice and designed an offering which we call the planning and readiness assessment to come into your organisation, talk to you about what your vision is, where you want to take teams, where you want to take your telephony in your environment, review your environment, put some testing devices out in your environment, run some tests to Office 365 and across your network, and identify whether your network meets the performance metrics for Office 365. So Microsoft publish, there's 4 main metrics that we look at when we're looking at, is this network suitable for cloud voice? Jitter, packet ratio, round trip time, and packet loss. Okay, so there are set metrics on all of those that need to be met to be able to, you meet these metrics, you get a good quality call. Right? If you don't, then you're going to run into some problems. So we have this offering that we call in the planning and readiness assessment. All of the Jasco sales guys are well versed in it, but we do a number of those. We've done a number of those for customers, and I'm in the middle of 2 or 3 of them at the moment. Okay. So out of that, we produce and give you a bunch of documents that basically help you plan your next steps into what this cloud world looks like. Okay. I'm going to talk, Jahan said, who cares about licensing, but I do a little bit. So what are the costs? It really comes down to what sort of licensing you have in Office 365. Telstra have a product called the Telstra Calling for Office 365 SKU. It comes in 3 flavours, and I'll talk about those in a sec. If you've got an E5 with phone system and audio conferencing, you're right to go. You don't need anything else. Now, don't ever hold a technical guy to prices that he puts in a spreadsheet in a presentation, because they could be wrong, but I did triple check them and I think they're okay. If you've got an E3, you need to add phone system, okay? And there's a cost of that. If you have an E1, you need to add phone system. Now, E3s and E1s don't come with audio conferencing. So if you want to be able to give your users the ability to make audio conferencing calls, you need to create meetings that have dial-in so that they can dial in via PSTN. You need to add that SKU in as well. The 3 flavours of the Telstra offering is basically the small, medium, and large. I come in the large grande variety. We've got standard calls, $8 per month. You've got the medium, which includes local and long distance, 14. And if you've got, want to include mobiles in and all you can eat, you've got 18. Now, what we tend to find here is that a lot of the enterprise customers who have agreements with with Telstra will choose the $8 plan, and then will be billed based on whatever their agreed call rates are from Telstra for that. Any international calls or premium calls will be billed to you directly as well. Now, those prices, obviously talk to your Telstra account reps, whether you can do any better deals for those on those. Some of the business rules from the Telstra Calling for Office 365, it's available for all Office 365 tenants. When it was first launched, it was only available to tenants based in Australia. So if you've got multinational, that the tenancy is based overseas, we can now actually light it up in there as well. TCO International. So at the moment, you can only bring Australian numbers into Office 365. Telstra TCO International is on the roadmap. So wherever Telstra Global have SIP services, you can get numbers, we'll be able to get numbers from those and bring those into your tenancy as well. You can't mix and match dial plans. You can't have 20 users on the $8 plan and 100 users on the $15, the 14 or the $18 plan. One size fits all. So it's sort of like peaked hats. It's just, there's no adjusting. One size fits all for everyone. Initially, it was only available to enterprise and business customers. Is now available to small business customers. There are some limits about how big you need to be to get there. I don't know what those are. There's plenty of Telstra people in the room that you can grab and they can help you determine whether you're applicable for there. One of the key ones is around needing to add Telstra as a CSP, cloud solution provider, to be able to inject the TCO licenses into your tenancy. If you've got, I won't go into too much detail around that, but that's one of the requirements that you need to have to do this. From what we have been, our experience to date, and we've done a number of these TCO deployments, contact center space is still evolving. You can do basic ACD and hunt groups within the Office 365 portal, but it's not a contact center. Now, that space is going to change. The calling APIs for Teams have been in beta for quite a while. There's a big Microsoft conference in Orlando next week, and there is expectation that there will be announcements around that. There are some vendors that are already making announcements of new contact center products. Back in Inspire, the Vegas conference, which is the partner conference that was in June or July, there were some announcements about call recording in Teams that were made then. So there are 3 vendors that are working towards bringing call recording into Office 365 as well. I haven't had any discussions with the Telstra guys how that fits into the sandwich, which is TCO. It's going to work straight away. James is nodding his head. But PSTN calling, you beauty, it will. Yep. Yeah, PSTN calling for compliance, yeah. So you can, if you're in a conference call or a meeting within Teams or Skype for Business Online, you can click the record button and you can record that locally. What we're talking about here is if you're needing to record all PSTN calls in and out, some organisations have that requirement, then that is coming to Office 365 very soon. But if you just check the MS Ignite hashtag next week, and I'm sure there's going to be a gazillion announcements around that. Hopefully not in too many night bars that we get there. All right. So I'm not going to do a big demo. I'll go through and show you how it looks like in the tenancy, what it looks like when we get numbers in, how we can assign numbers to people, and what some of the basic functionality is we've got in the box now in terms of doing hunt groups and stuff like that, okay? Just the process of moving your numbers into TCO, it's really a 2-stage process. There's a bunch of paperwork that needs to be completed to start with, and my PMs absolutely love that. Chris and his team have done a fantastic job of streamlining that process. So we get the paperwork in, and we can either bring your numbers from your existing numbers or we can put greenfield numbers into the environment as well. If you're migrating from Telstra ISDN to TCO, the process is very painless because it can be done in the normal lead times about 10 days that those numbers come up. Now, when they come in for the first time, they're lit up and they're available for outbound calling. So I can assign that number to a user. If you've got traditional telephony like an old NEC PABX sitting on your desk, you can light up a user, assign their number to them, and they can start making outbound calls through TCO. Right, so that's stage 1 of the process. If you need to port your numbers from a different carrier, the process takes a little bit longer. There's regulatory delays and there's processes that need to happen for that. So it takes a bit longer. It can take anywhere, I don't know, it can take, you're looking at least 4 to 6 weeks for something like that to happen. Once it's in there, they're lit up, you can make outbound calls with it. And it's really good to get people used to it. It's a soft launch for the product and they can start making outbound calls. And then when you're ready to actually go live and have your inbound calls coming in that direction, we just schedule an appointment with the TCO migration team, and they light up those numbers for inbound calling as well. And at that point, we're ready to rock and roll. There's two types of numbers that we have within the system, within Office 365, a user number and a service number. User numbers are assigned to users. Pretty simple. What is a service number? The service number has basically some higher capacity calling options applied to it so that you assign those to your hunt groups and to your auto attendants. Okay? All right. So I'm just going to jump in for our tenancy, and hopefully this still works, and give you a quick little overview before I hand over to Michael. Oh. So I was talking before about the roadmap. This is a really good, this is the roadmap here. I'll see if I can just zoom out a little bit. If we want to see, I've actually brought this down and just searched on Teams. If we look at rolling out, for example, we can see which options are rolling out. Reverse number lookup is an option that's coming out. It's been rolling out in October of this year, so that when someone dials in, it takes the inbound call number, looks at it against the Azure directory. If it's got a match, it'll give the user's name rather than the phone number. Okay. If I, of course, I've signed out here. So you prepare this and it just kills you. I have. All right, let's see if this works again. And because I'm outside the JascoAdapt organisation, I'm using two-factor auth. So if if you haven't seen that before, it's a function of the multi-factor and conditional access. So when I'm within the JascoAdapt environment, I'm logged on to my corporate network. Azure knows that and doesn't prompt me for the second factor auth. When I'm outside, I'm just connected to the internet here, it will prompt me for that two-factor auth as well. So it gives me that extra security of that sign-in. Okay. All right, here we go. So if we have a look in the Teams dashboard, I can bring that out. Now, this is really, every time I log into this, something's changed. A menu's moved, more menus have been added, and that's one of those things that, like, people that are very process-driven, click on this menu, click on this menu, click on this menu, it messes with their mind, because there'll be all of a sudden there'll be something new in there. And one of the things that's new that's popped in recently, if we look under users, wasn't at this level. You used to have to go down into the organisational wide settings to the legacy portal, the old Sky for Business portal, to see that. So we can see this in here now, and we can see which numbers are assigned to individuals. If I have a look under voice, I can now see phone numbers here. So what phone numbers have been assigned into my tenancy? And this is the phone number view. Now, the feedback that I would give on this one, this has only recently come in the last month. We need another column in there. We need to know who the number's assigned to. It's assigned to someone, but who's it assigned to? So that's one of the things that we still need to bring into that portal. That information is available in the old Skype for Business legacy portal still, so you can see that. I've seen some tenancies and some reports of tenancies where the Skype for Business legacy portal is gone. It's been completely removed, and that's obviously they're at a point where they've actually migrated and moved that. So if I wanted to find a user, so I can click on a particular number, I can look at edit, and I can assign it to an individual. So that's a simple process of how I can assign that. So this is a service number, so I can only assign it to a conference bridge or a resource account. Resource accounts are used for our auto attendance and call queues. Okay. So if I found a user number, I can click on a user number, click edit, and I will see if I can find my test user. No. Possibly because, I don't know, it's doesn't seem to want to work for me there. If I go into this guy, go into users, I actually go into voice. I want to sign here. There's always more than one way to skin a cat in these scenarios. I do have a user called Amy Ross, but for some reason that Amy's not coming up. So I did try this morning and it didn't want to play for me. Before we enable someone, I just wanted to go in and show you that we just need to make sure that the licensing is correct for the individual. I can click Amy. There's Amy Ross. I can click Amy. I can look at her licensing and apps. We've got audio conferencing, so we've assigned her an audio conferencing license. She's got an E3 without audio conferencing, the Telstra calling for Office 365 license as well. So we should be able to light her up. I'm not going to try and troubleshoot that right now, but trust me, it works. I'm a professional, it works. So one of the things that there's really, some of the things that you could only ever do through PowerShell, you can now do through the portal. And this is some of the really good stuff that has come in recent times. So if I look at my own account, and please don't laugh at the photo. Actually, I won't do it with me. I'll do it with the good-looking fellow that is Bob. Bob Marks is one of my test users. So he's a good-looking rooster. So if I have a look at Bob, if I look at devices, I'm in Office 365 here. I need to do that from over here. I look at users over here and I look for Bob. All right, he's right there. Okay, so Bob's got a number assigned to him. So if I click on Bob, some of the voice policies that I can now assign is you couldn't do this through, you can only do this PowerShell before, but if I wanted to restrict Bob from calling international numbers, I can now just set a policy to say only within the country of origin, the same country. So that's preventing him from making international. Administrators trying to delegate this down to some of the junior level administrators, having to do this via PowerShell is not ideal. But being able to do this now within the console is a really good move. So we can do that. We can also have policy or ID. So we want all calls from this person to go out as a certain number. We can now do that through the tenancy as well. So that sort of just gives, that's the really simple process of lighting someone up. Once you've assigned the number to someone and the licenses are there, they pretty much just need to sign out of the client that they're in, and then they can make calls inbound and outbound from there. So they can go into their Teams client, they can go down the calling tab, and then they can just start making calls. So we can dial a number, and it shows you my number there. That's my direct number, and then I can just enter my number in here as I would with any other soft phone. I can start making calls. It's as simple as that. Anything else that I want to just remember here? Just from a calling, we talked about some of the basic functionalities that we've got in terms of hunt groups and auto attendance. We can obviously do a hunt group is called a call queue in Office 365, and an auto attendant is the typical IVR functionality where you press 1 for this, press 2 for this, press 3 for this, press 4 for this. So we can have typical routing rules. What are the public holidays? What are the time opening hours? Where do we want to send the call? Who do we want to send it to? The options that we have are not exactly the same as what we do in Sky for Business, even on-premise. They're a little bit different. The routing options are a little bit less, and there's less emphasis on presence in an online world than what there is, than there is on the on-premise world. So that's all I've got for there. If anyone wants to come up afterwards and ask any specific questions about this particular component of it, please do so. What I will do now is hand over to Michael Verso from Facilia. Michael worked for Jasco, how long have you gone? 5 years, 6 years? 5 or 6 years ago. He was a developer within Jasco, and we did a lot of work around the UC stack and what was the UCMA and the UCWAR APIs that were available in Link and in Skype for Business. Michael set up his own company, and Jasco and Vasili have partnered, have a strategic relationship to provide that calling, to provide that next level of automation within the Skype and the Teams platform. So, Michael, thank you. I'll switch across to you.
All right, thanks, Gav.
Yep.
Yes, it is. Beautiful. Okay, so morning, everyone. I'm Michael Verso, the CEO and founder of Facilia, and as Gavin said, I have recently partnered with Jasco Consulting to essentially help them implement modern business applications and automation solutions for our customers. So far this morning, you've heard the guys talk about digital transformation, using your data in your existing applications, how good Teams is as a collaboration platform. So what I'm going to do today is show you how we can combine Teams and the Power Platform. So the Power Platform is probably a new term that you guys may have heard. So we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a moment. What I'm going to show you today is how you can combine the collaboration with Teams, with custom solutions and automation using the Power Platform, and how you can use your existing data and existing cloud solutions that your organisation already uses. So like Jahan said earlier, if you're using Box for your data, for your content storage, or maybe you're using Salesforce as your CRM, how you can use those solutions within your existing, within Teams to enhance your collaboration experience. So what I'm going to do today for you is first I'm going to explain what the Power Platform is, so everyone understands what the Power Platform consists of. I'm then going to run through a demo and show you how the Power Platform can be used within the context of Teams, and I'm going to run through a very common scenario that we see a lot, well, we do see a lot of our customers use to automate creating project sites essentially and configuring all the resources, inviting guest users and stuff like that into the team. And then I'm going to touch on a number of use cases that I've seen yield some quite significant benefits for our existing customers there in terms of efficiency and productivity. All right, so what is the Microsoft Power Platform? All right, so the Power Platform consists of 3 key technologies, being Power Apps, Flow, and Power BI. What Power Apps allows us to do is to basically build modern business applications. Okay, and what I'm going to do in a moment is I'm going to go through each of these in a bit more detail, but it essentially enables you to build modern business applications, embed that in Teams, or you can run them from your mobile and stuff like that. Microsoft Flow, which is a very mature and extensible workflow engine, lets you connect to all your data and services that we spoke about before. And Power BI, which is Microsoft's premier business intelligence solution. Okay, so the Power Platform is also supported by a number of services. One of those main services is called the Common Data Services. And what that allows us to do is to very efficiently take our data from our cloud services, data on premises, and pull that into our applications with the ability to apply rules and do calculations and perform custom actions on, custom tasks essentially on the data that we pull in. It is also supported by artificial intelligence services as well. So essentially what that allows us to do, particularly when we're talking about our existing data, we can use artificial intelligence to essentially predict trends, predict business outcomes, and then build that into our automation and applications when we deploy it into teams. Okay, so if I cover off what each of these 3 core technologies encompasses, talking about Power Apps first. So as I said, Power Apps does enable us to build modern business applications. These applications enable us to connect to our existing data and to our cloud services and pull that into essentially into an app. So we typically use Power Apps when we don't want to use a standard form that you might have for a HR type scenario. The apps allow us to implement custom business logic and do support more your wizard type applications. Obviously, what I'm going to show you later on is I do embed a Power App into a Teams tab to run a demo in a moment. Again, we can use artificial intelligence in terms of when we do pull data into our Power App. Power Apps can be shared with our external users. So a very common scenario with Teams, you may be working with external partners and contractors. Not only can you collaborate with them, you can also share the custom solutions that you've developed and have your external partners and guests and whatnot use that as well. In the scenarios where Power Apps, even though Power Apps does have a huge amount of capability and features, we do occasionally come across scenarios where we can't do something within the Power Apps. We do have Azure behind us as well. So the Power Platform, as you'd expect, is able to integrate with Azure, and we need to do Azure-specific activities. We can actually build that into apps as well. So we do have the ability to really pull resources from multiple locations and combine that into a single pane of glass for a solution. Microsoft Flow. So as I said, this is a very, very powerful workflow engine. You can extend it, and it does, again, natively, it does connect to your existing data, and it does connect to a lot of these cloud platforms that you may already use. So we really do see Flow being used to implement the most simple of workflows. It might be a simple approval process for annual leave, but we also do see it being used for the more complex workflows. We might be talking about a policy and procedure type workflow that involves the input from many people. You require an audit trail there, and just so you can meet your compliance obligations. But it is very capable of implementing complex workflows and pulling data from many locations. Quite often, we see Flow executed from a Power App solution or Microsoft Forms. So again, that's what you're going to see in the demo. Usually, user performs an action on data within a Power Apps, clicks a button, and quite a lot of the time, that'll execute a flow to perform actions in the back end. Artificial intelligence, again, comes into play here. So artificial intelligence, quite good at predicting trends in data, things like that. So you can actually have Microsoft Flow when it's performing conditional actions. It can actually rely on artificial intelligence to help it make a decision what a particular process may do. And again, you can have users approve that based on a weighting. If let's say a flow makes a call to an artificial intelligence endpoint and it gets what usually comes back is a confidence rating. So let's say the confidence rating comes back as 90%, the flow may automatically go ahead and perform a task. If it's below that, it can actually ping somebody in Teams, it could be a Teams message, an email, or a push notification, and get them to approve the next step within an automated process. So that's available today. You can actually build these types of this type of intelligence into your existing workflows. Power BI, all about getting business insights from your data. So it is Microsoft's premier business intelligence and data visual platform, but it does do a lot more than just that. There is a lot of power in Power BI being able to, again, take the data from all your existing sources, from your cloud services and APIs, and combining them into very comprehensive and quite visually good looking, or stunning, if you like, dashboards. Okay. So when you pull, but it is, yeah, as I was saying, it is a bit more. It is a bit more than that. The value this actually gives you is that once you get this data built into your Power BI dashboards, it arms the users with the data that they need to make business decisions. So, what I'm going to show you in the demo shortly is we actually do bring Power BI into Teams. So when we do set up our project, we are going to have a Power BI dashboard in there. And again, that lets users work with the data in real time in terms of running the project. And again, AI really does come into managing data. So if you have KPIs within your project, you have milestones to meet and whatnot, Power BI will actually trigger events for you as well, right? So AI, it can predict business outcomes. It'll predict, when a trend is working up, AI will actually predict that you might be reaching a particular threshold. It'll fire an event in that circumstance, and maybe send an email to somebody to take action on a bit of data before an unwanted business event occurs. All right, so what I'm going to do here is in just a moment, I'm going to run through a demo. As I said, it's a pretty common scenario that we do see. Users who are working in teams typically set up a project, let's say for a new engagement with a customer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show how we can build the Power Platform into Teams to create a team project and then pull all resources from our existing content and data and pull all of that automatically into a team instance. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to swap across to my team client. Okay, cool. All right, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Teams, what we have on the left down here is our list of existing teams. Within our teams, we have channels. So as you can see here, I've got an operations team, and within the operations team there, I have 3 channels, one of those being called projects. So it's in the projects channel where I have deployed my Power App. So the thing with Power Apps, they are responsive, which is what you'd expect from a modern application. This one was originally designed for mobile, but there's no reason why I couldn't build it for, suitable for a device or web page. And the app will automatically be responsive for the UI that you are using. So I could just as easily run this off my phone using Power Apps. What we can see here is a list of contacts. These contacts have been taken from a SharePoint list, but there's absolutely no reason why it couldn't have come from Dynamics CRM or from Salesforce or any other type of CRM solution that you may be using. Again, you can integrate with your existing line of business applications that your organisations use. It's very extensible in that way. So it's a very simple list of users. So I can just click on that list of data, and it does bring up a details pane. So as I was saying before, Power Apps are more than just your standard form. It is a real application to what you traditionally see on mobile devices. So you can navigate throughout the application and implement your own business logic for your own solutions. So as we can see here, we've got Jason McClintock as the display name. We have the company, which is Fabricam, and I've built in my own form here for creating essentially what I'm going to do here is create a new team project and pull together resources. So as you'd expect from a modern responsive application, when I change the name, other controls update, so it is responsive and flexible in that way. And we can also, which is the power of the platform, we can pull data from multiple sources. So as we can see here in the team owner drop-down list, that's actually queried by Office 365 tenancy looking for users. So I can search for any user within my organisation to assign as an owner for this new team. I've built logic into it to identify who I am by default, so that's why we automatically see myself as a selected item here. what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create this new team project. So we've got the project name will be Project Fabricam Zeus. And I'm going to go ahead and click Team Project. Now what I've just done here by clicking that button is executed a flow. And that flow is going to go through a series of steps to configure my team. Now this process does take about 4 to 5 minutes. So what I'm going to do, instead of waiting for each step to complete, I'm going to go through this project from Toso Apollo here and explain exactly what the flow's done. While I'm doing that, though, you're probably going to see Zeus appear below Apollo as it actually performs its work in the background. So, the first thing that we're going to see the flow do is create a new team. So it's going to create a team. It's going to automatically assign myself as the owner. As you can see, Zeus has popped up now. And once it's created that new team, it's going to automatically create the channels that I want to use within that team. All right. So as you can,
just on that, Michael, one of the things you can do there is set approvals. So if you want to restrict who can create new teams, you can set approvals and have the logic within Flow to send it to the right people to get approval before it's automatically created.
Yeah, that's correct. And that approval could go into the operations channel there for somebody to approve. So you can actually, via Flow, send a Teams message to a user going, do you approve this project from being created? And based on that response, the Flow will actually proceed or cancel the operation. So you've got a real lot of capability there in terms of collaboration and what you send out to users. So the point I want to make here as well, because it's automated, in terms of setting up a new project, you might need to involve IT to create the team for you. You might need to copy resources from locations, from the latest set of templates, which are always hardest to find, into your team resource. From here, using this particular scenario, you can just simply delegate permissions for, say, the project manager within your organisation to create that team on your behalf. So something that could potentially take a day or longer to pull together all the resources to kick off a project, we've condensed it down into a matter of minutes. So quite powerful from a productivity point of view and standardised. So what you might not know with Teams as well is when a new Teams is created in Office 365, it actually creates a SharePoint site underneath that. It's by default. So when a new SharePoint site is created, it's essentially created for the purpose of managing the files within that you may manage within that team. So if you have used Teams before and you're working with files, those files are actually being stored on SharePoint. Okay, so what's been built into our particular solution is we have a site template that we have for every single project. So our site template consists of custom navigation. We make it join a hub site, which means that our team project would be searchable from our corporate intranet. So it is visible to the organisation, again, enhancing collaboration. We're creating custom pages. We're embedding document libraries and calendars onto those pages and copying across our latest version of all of our templates from a central location all into our new team. Now, this all happens automatically in minutes under the covers. So to show you what that looks like, really simple example, I've created a new page where we store in details related to our project. So this could, other than the latest, a latest version of documents and our calendar there's no events at the moment. Yeah, so other than that, we could display details of, people from out of our contact, CRM, for example, on this page, so we know who to contact for the project. We could have just as easily executed, used Flow to create events in the calendar. So all the milestones that we have for our project, the meetings would be set up automatically at predefined dates, invites sent, all that stuff that would manually have to happen. So what we've done here, and I probably didn't touch on that, is on top of creating these channels here, we've also created a number of tabs. So this is essentially a custom tab. The project details, the homepage for the SharePoint homepage. And we've also embedded a sample. It's just a sample Power BI report, but we've actually embedded our Power BI report as well. So if you have an existing cloud service where you do need to track progress on your project and you want to do that via reporting, you absolutely can embed Power BI into Teams tabs, and it is fully interactable. So again, you get the Power BI, you can browse through each of the report pages if you want to, and as I said, it is interactive, so you've got all the functionality there in terms of drilling into the data. I'll click that, all within the context of Teams. So what we've essentially done here is pulled everything that we need to run a project within a matter of minutes into a central collaboration location on Teams. Now, if we wanted to take this step again, if you wanted to take this a bit further, there is Microsoft Planner, which for those of you who don't know what Planner is, it's essentially an updated version of Microsoft Project. So again, we could use Flow to create a new project plan, create tasks within that plan, assign it to users and set due dates for all of those, and then you can track progress in that plan, again, all within the context of Teams. It's also very common for users for new projects. You might be working with external contractors, or you have partner organisations that you do want to work with. Again, you can use Flow to automatically invite guests into your team, send invites, get them out to the users. So straight away from the very beginning of the project, you can be working with your business partners and collaborating with your business partners with the data within Teams. Okay, so it's a really quick, short demo, shows a pretty useful use case. Again, we're just scratching the surface here really in what we can do with Teams and with the Power Platform when we're talking about automation. So yeah, well, I might finish on that. If you guys want to talk to me about how we actually achieve this and the other types of scenarios that we can implement, yeah, more than happy to have a chat afterwards. Thanks.
Like, it's really difficult to encompass the power of that, but it's really an imagination thing. And one of the my laptop gone to sleep? Yes, it has. It's on power. I should have. One of the Jahan talked about the core note from Inspire from this year. One of the things that I've really found useful. Oh, that's Michael, and I'm laptop one. Cool. One of the things that I really found useful, I didn't go, but I actually watched the core note. And one of the really interesting ones was a segment from David Kellerman from the University of New South Wales, and how he's used Teams and cognitive services and AI with his engineering faculty. So he has 500 students that he uses Teams to provide the lectures to share notes, to all the tutors go through there as well. And when you've got a chance, have a look at that, because he's actually using cognitive services and AI to create an answer bot, so students can actually ask questions and the AI services will attempt to answer that question for them. But he also has it set up to the point where he can, by about 3 months into the year, he knows, based on experience and based on the AI, which students are going to fail. And he has conversations with them and to tell them to either withdraw from the course, or you need to lift your game, or you're not going to pass. So yeah, that's all. We'll leave it on that. What I will do is I'll invite Eric from Poly. I always try to say Polycom, but it's not Polycom anymore. It's just Poly, to give you a very brief overview of the device offerings that we have for Microsoft Teams. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Gav. Morning, everybody. We're coming through. Yeah, not high enough. Couple of housekeeping items first. Does anybody, just a quick question, anybody know the difference between mashed potato and pea soup? Anyone can mash potato. Sorry.
something to light the mood. Look, it's been a really good morning so far. Thanks for having me up here. I just want to touch on some stuff. Jahan touched on it this morning. Gav touched on it as well. And it's really around last mile stuff. So there are 4 or 5 generations of people in the workforce at the moment. And every single one of those generations, what we see is they all work differently. They all have different requirements. They all have different skill sets. And they all have different preferred ways of working. So I could talk about that all day, but what I really wanted to highlight was someone has changed all the color of my slides. Yeah. All right, half my text is missing. So thank you. What we've got outside is we've got a selection of devices for Teams. Teams is really gaining traction out there in the market. So next month, next month, these devices will be available for purchase. They'll be available for ordering, but what they are, they're new handsets from Poly, so they're built on known technology, iterative devices. They're called CCXs. 400, 500, and 600, they're all designed as different price points in the market. So the 400 is our entry-level phone, 500 is our mid-level phone, and the 600 will be our top-level phone. All really good products, new to the market, but primarily they're Teams first devices. So these are all built around Android 9, have got, really up-to-date processors, a bunch of RAM in them, and Microsoft have been actively developing these. Official launch next week will be really good, but they've been announced to the market for a little while. So we've actually got a couple of them out there and signed in for you to have a look at. So we've got a 400 and a 600 out there. For you to have a look at. They are beta units. They're not actually out in the wild yet, but they will be fit and feel of what you actually see. For anyone who's using Polycom phones today, we have a trade-up program. So if you've got VVXs in your organization today that you're using as a 3-pip device for Skype for Business, maybe Skype for Business Online, these phones, as long as you have a Polycom phone, you can buy a maintenance SKU that will entitle you to do basically an RMA on those VVXs and get back a CCX phone. So it's a way of becoming early adopters or getting first in the queue to get these devices in your hands. So really encourage you to have a chat to Jasco, who know all about this and can give you that. But phones for users, old school. Mobile first technology, people with mobile phones, the new generation, they have a different way of working. So what we did as an organization is we partnered with Microsoft and we developed a new device. So this device is a different take on a phone. It's called an Alara 60. So what this is, it's a mobile first workstation. It's not connected to a PC. It's not connected to anything on your desk. It has a PowerPoint. It's designed as a touch point for your mobile phone and your Plantronics headset. So you will pair with that device. It means you can walk up, chuck your phone down. The first device is the entry-level device that has USB charging. The second device in there actually introduces wireless charging. So if you've got some of the later Apple phones or a fairly recent Android phone, you'll have wireless charging. So you can dock down in that, it'll charge your phone, and then there's a headset dock as well. So someone mentioned it before that one of the biggest pains with headsets is people don't plug them in, don't charge them, pick them up, they're flat. This is actually a docking station. So you chuck that's a focus you see up there, chuck that in the dock, it charges, your mobile charges, everything's going to work. It is a Teams native device, so if you look closely, you'll see there's a Teams button on there. If you've got Teams and you've got Telstra calling on your Teams mobile, you can use that dial pad. It will dial out of Teams off your mobile phone. If you hit that button, it will invoke Teams on your mobile phone. So then we have the top tier of that device that's a speakerphone, got a handset, and actually has wireless charging as well. But let's have a talk about the last mile. So I've only got a few minutes, so I'm not going to talk for long about this stuff, but Plantronics did a study a few years ago at their top 500 customers. And what they did is they looked around and they developed these key 7 personas. So what that means is in every organization, we see 91%. These are the 7 ways of working. For a customer, what these tool gives you is the ability to identify which personas you have in your organization. That lets you know how they work. And what that'll do, it'll help you identify the types of headsets that you can give to these people so that they actually get the best use out of them and you get the best use of your spend. So you give the people what they need and they can use that technology appropriately. So we find most organizations we talk to in Australia maybe don't have quite the depth of people that were surveyed. We find about 4 is usually the number out of these that people will identify that they can that is applicable to them. So this is publicly available stuff. So if anyone wants to have a chat about this, we can give you this, and we've got surveys that go along with it if you're still not sure, that you can give to your business to work out how your users are working. I'm not going to go to my headset slide because it looks like this. And I'm not going to go to this slide, and I'm not going to go to the next slide, but what I will say is that we are an enterprise company. So Plantronics and Polycom both come together with an enterprise focus and an enterprise tool set. So headsets, when you start to move up in the world, and I was about to grab mine, but it's actually sitting on a chair over there, they're not a cheap commodity. You can buy cheap headsets and people do use them for churn, but a lot of people who are in your organization are long stayers, and we develop some really cool headsets, but we also develop a management platform that goes with that. So what that means is we can do asset management, inventory management, device management, firmware management, but then we can also do reporting, health, status, and we can do a whole bunch of really cool things with your headset. And if you've got a call center, we've got a part of that platform that will actually give you your legal obligations too. So we can do compliance reporting. So it's not just a headset that we can put down, we can actually do some business tools with it. So I've only got 10 minutes, so I'm going to just say the other part of the last mile of the users is their conference rooms. And that's the Polycom side of it. So all I can say about this stuff is if you are watching market trends and you're looking at what's going on at the moment, keep an eye out next week. We have some really big announcements coming out in the market that are a bit of a game changer again. So thanks for your time. I'm going to get out of your hair and pass on to the next speaker.
Thanks so much, Eric. And if you guys haven't already seen, we've got a Poly stand at the back. So if you've got any questions about what he's spoken about and any of the devices, feel free to have a chat to him. And we've also got Stan as well, who's here. Next up, and this is the last section of today, we have our guest speaker, Pauline Diano from the Supreme Court. She is the program manager who alongside James Nation-Ingle, will be having a chat about TCO and her experience with the solution.
Grab another seat. Oh, what's it over here? We'll come forward a bit, eh?
Okay. Am I on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
I think so.
All
Now, so one of the things that you guys have had today is a little bit of a history lesson. You've had a history lesson in Microsoft. You've had a history lesson in James. To continue on your history lesson in James, when I first got into IT, I started off sort of doing the technical sales thing, business developing, account managing. And I worked out about a year ago, I worked out that when I was doing that style of role over probably 8 years, I had about 1,000 unique customer interactions. So about 1,000 people that I met over those 8 years. Of those 1,000 people I met, most of them were IT managers, CIOs, cool people. We're lucky enough today to have Pauline, who over those years, of those 1,000 people, is easily one of my favorite customers that I've ever met, and is professional when it comes to transformation that I've come across. Pauline is from the Supreme Court of Victoria. I'm going to get her to tell you a little bit about herself and what she does. I'm going to ask her some questions. We're going to have a little bit of fun. You want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thank you.
Of course.
Hi, my name's Pauline. I am the Program Director of the Supreme Court's Digital Transformation. I've been at the court 4 years at the commencement of our strategy that started in 2015. So there was a document that came out in 2015 2020 to basically digitise the Supreme Court. The Chief Justice at the time came out boldly and said that we will be paperless by January 2016. Given that I'd only started 5 months before, I thought that was probably a bit ambitious. But over that time, what we have done is that we've built a brand new network. We migrated the judges and the staff off the Department of Justice network onto our own. We have rebuilt all of our applications in the cloud, so in Microsoft's Azure cloud. We have digitised the workflow. You do not file with our court anymore by paper. It's all done electronically, and that's mandatory. That means that the judge interacts with that file all electronically in court and in chambers. And the piece de resistance is we have partnered with Telstra and Engie. We are undertaking a fit out of all of our courtrooms. Now, our courtrooms are like TV studios. We audio and video record everything. So that's an $11 million program. We are 8 courts through 31. We are quite confident. We are, without question, the most technologically advanced. So that has been a wonderful journey for me. Our program will be finished early. We finish at the end of this year. And one of the projects that we did as part of the digitisation of the court, where we have no more analogue and there is no legacy. Falling off. So, and it actually was, James is being very kind. I can also be very uncompromised. I know what I want. I very much respect the fact that the court is my client. So I want the best for my client every day of the week and 2 times on a Sunday, and I'm not going to be told otherwise by any vendor. As a result, we are second to none globally, what we do have. Should we tell the story about how this started? Right.
Sure. So I used to work for the Department of Education of Victoria, and I came into Telstra probably, 2 years ago now. I came into Telstra to pick up Telstra Calling and sort of launch it as a product from a sales point of view. And one of the first things that I did when I got to Telstra was I hooked up with an account manager and what is now a modern workplace specialist from Telstra, and we went out and visited Pauline. I picked up the proposal that we were going to present. I looked at it and went, this is something I know. This is Skype for Business. It is what we used to call, or what we call TCC Skype for Business, which is the legacy hosted Skype for Business that Telstra sold, but in effect, it's an on-premise server-based solution. I went, no worries. I know all about this. I'm an engineer in it. I've had my hands on it for the last few years, a massive environment. I'm going to nail this meeting. So we went out. I was familiar with the proposal. We sat in front of Pauline, introduced ourselves. We went through the proposal, went through her business requirements, did what a good business development manager does, and said, Pauline, all these things that you told us that you want, they're in this document here. We're going to build this thing. It's going to be a dedicated instance for you. It's going to be on Telstra's hosted platform. What did you say?
Kindly, I said, I've just spent, this is a court. I said to you, this is a court, right? I want its business to be running a court, not running an IT. Why should it? It's not what I want. The whole strategy has been about cloud-based as a service. I do that for 2 reasons. One, it's a public entity, VPS. Who am I going to get to look after this that's not going to run it back into the ground? Just 2, as a service. It means that it's OPEX, not CAPEX. You know anything about government? One of the hardest things, go cap in hand, Treasury, and say, everything we have is end of life. Could we please have millions of dollars now to upgrade these servers? Those days have to be over. So I said, basically get lost. It's not what I want. You wasted my time. I told you that this is my strategy. Come back to me when you've got something that fits our whole strategy. And what did you say to me?
I said, well, you can't tell anyone about it. If you sign this NDA, I can tell you all about it, and we can get you onto, or try and get you onto an early adopters program for this thing that we're going to call Telstra Calling for Office 365, which will take that core voice workload and I'll put it in the cloud.
Good. What's in it for it? If I join this early adopters program, what's in it for a course? Do I get it cheaper? Do I get the text set up and I don't have to pay? And they said, no, you've got to do all of that. I said, well, you know what? Let somebody else be the guinea pig. Come back and tell me when it's now available for anyone to sign. So when it was, James rang me and said, we're ready, it's now available. And I said, rightio. And we were the first customer in Australia to sign up after the early adopters program. Get my word.
I said, Pauline, it launches on Thursday. She signed on Friday.
So, because I knew that, from a strategic point of view, it's exactly where we wanted to be. I don't want to introduce more complexity from a managing an environment point of view to the court. Let them be a court. Let the court be the court. Why do they need to be an IT shop? And we've got all the technology now that says you don't have to be. And it's accessible, it's cheap, and like I said, it's OPEX. That's the tastiest thing for me, because no more going back to Treasury. Those servers, you know, that fabulous thing you just built? Yeah, it needs to upgrade. So we did sign up straight away.
What I didn't realise at the time was that all the other bits that were surrounding voice inside Office 365 were already underway. So I didn't realise the scope of this transformation that the courts were going through at the time. As the relationship developed, I got exposure to it, and I've been lucky enough to go and train some users at the courts on things like Surface Hubs. There was a whole Windows 10 transformation that you were doing around it, and the rest of the core Office 365 workloads. So unbeknownst to me, when we first went out there, I was creating a situation for Pauline by accident where she was going to take everything, put it in the cloud, and then leave voice behind. One of the first things I said to you when I gave my speech earlier was, that's the point of Telstra calling for Office 365, is to not leave voice be that last bit that's on premise.
And it was sort of like a perfect storm too, because I had the telephony guy who'd been there since Jesus was in short pants come and say to me, we've run out of digital. So we've got no more. So when a new person starts, we've got no more number. And I said, well, what's doing this now? So I went up to go and see where it's all hosted, and it looks like the I Love Lucy telephone exchange with the white. And I started laughing my head off. I thought, okay, well, you know what? Telephony in the program. And I knew what I wanted. I didn't know it existed. As soon as you pitched it to me, I knew what it was. I thought, okay, we're ready to go. But we had a kick-off meeting. All sitting around. They said, rightio, you need to give us global admin access. Telstra global admin access. Yeah. You're not getting global admin access for my Office 365 instance. You want to know why? I built the whole thing from scratch. Every single decision made about that environment has been made by me. So, I'm going to give it to Telstra. No disrespect, but I'm not giving global admin access when that change window is up or when that maintenance needs.
So I said, well, Pauline, to build the service, I need to have global admin access. I went down to the court. She grabbed me by the ear, and she walked me into a court where there was I think there was a case going on at the time, and she said every bit of information that goes on, and she said you need to understand the business that I'm working in. Everything that happens inside that court has a digital and data output, and every single thing that happens inside that court, a lawyer could use to toss a case out, and a murderer could walk free. Or innocent, someone innocent could be put in jail by accident if these things are compromised. So there's no way known that I'm going to give you anyone global admin access.
So I think, and this is one of the things I stress all the time, the work that the court does is incredibly important. We don't sell shoes, right? It's not only from a transactional point of view. Yes, we have murderers come out of that place. We have out of that place. We also handle settlements between two multi-dollar parties. It's more important than that. It's the institution. We as a community expect that the institution has a language, but we really do. And it's incredibly important to us. It should be to all of us. You've got to know that what happens in that and a sense of reliability, that you know that whatever's happening, and confidentiality, that whatever happening to you is being handled and managed in a way that you would expect if one in charge. Why I said no to global admin access. Unfortunately, one of the reps from Telstra, well, you know, we do things for defence and they give us a Secondly, you're not a weapons manufacturer, right? We're not a weapons manufacturer. Telstra's not a weapons manufacturer. You are a party in this court on a regular occasion. The day I said that, Telstra was suing Optus in the Court of Appeal. The day I said that. So it was just a non-starter, right? So I said, you know what? You clever people, go away and figure it out. You've got to figure out a way to support and stand this thing up and in a way that's the lazy way out. To say to me, give me global admin access, lazy. Work it out, come back to me when you've got a solution.
So the reason for us telling you this little anecdote and this little story is to...
Number one, it's a ripper. Right? Because it totally is, because I totally got my way.
Is to give you an example as customers and as partners of the way that Telstra and Microsoft together are changing. We had a customer who quite colourfully but very fairly and forcefully said, no, I want what you've got, but I want it in a particular way that suits my business. The old way of us doing business would have been, okay, come back to us in 6 to 12 months and we might have a solution for you. Or, oh, well, that's a problem customer, we'll go do something else.
So beautifully, I was asked to speak at Telstra Vantage, not the one just went that one.
Oh, gee.
With Gretchen Cook and Rachel Bondi from Microsoft and Gretchen. And I sat there and said, and we're talking about Telstra calling, I said, you better get that. Otherwise, I was about to out yet everyone here, because that thing was packed, right? I think the important thing to note was two things. Number one, I said to them, I might be the first to ask, but I'm not going to be the last. I'm not going to be the last customer that says, oh, no, I'm not comfortable. Global admin access to my Office 365 tenant. All the emails, all the documents on SharePoint, any Telstra. Oh, but we do reporting, you can find out. I said, it's too late. Hey, but it won't be the last. Secondly, James is right. That went all the way to Redmond. So when I said, work it out, you clever people, get in a room, sort it out, come back to me, it took 4 months, actually good, right? It took 4 months, but it went all the way to Redmond. They developed a solution. James came back to me and said, right?
How much sleep did you lose over that one, Jahan?
I didn't know that. Thank you very much. So if you as customers, you have the option now of deciding that you are a non-consenting customer, named after me, right? No, I'm not consenting, and that they will manage your environment differently, and no one gets that. I was incredibly happy with that outcome, and it has been an enormous. And this is where Jasco needs. We were the first cab off the rank, and I am very exact. And also the way that we're all day, every during the worst. I do not want to inconvenience better. I don't want it an impossible. So I was incredibly exact. The other way, and Jasco, they really were. They were an understanding, which is.
Yeah, we got to a point where everything had been a relative success, and we were getting to the point of really rolling everything up. And I needed a partner that would give Supreme Court and Pauline the love that they deserve. And we introduced Jasco, and they picked it up.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I can't afford a cookie. Environment won't. I needed someone to work with me to do it the way that I knew we. That is what Jasco did do. Our phone bill has gone from $22,000 a month. That is $2 million over 10 years. We're funded by the taxpayer. We're funded by all of you. So that, for me, is another really important way. And it doesn't get better than that for me. It really doesn't. And I can hang my hat on that and say the whole thing was an overwhelming success. And the judges love it. Judges love the mobility of Stripe for business. But
yeah, what's next? What is
so
next?
What's next is obviously the migration. We signed up, so we started talking about this early last year. Teams didn't quite have the capability that Stripe had, what we need. We still take a lot of calls from people filing with the court that need triaging and call centre. And at that point, Teams wasn't ready, but Stripe was. Also, from a point of view, you can appreciate that over 4 years, we've changed in that environment a lot of change. So we made the call that we would stick to Skype for the moment, roll that out, and then as Skype becomes end of life, we would then. And to be quite frank with you, certainly be my advice that you wait until the very last minute, make sure that everything has been ironed out of Teams and that capability is matched. So, yeah, I wouldn't change that decision, even though, yes, we've got to go through another, because it was available with Teams, but it just wasn't there at the moment. So from a Telstra calling point of
view. Yeah. And that's sort of starting to get underway now, right? The Teams.
Yeah, so we're starting to do the, like I said, it would be my advice to the court, you put that out for as long as you can to make sure, number one, Microsoft is still investing in the capability into Teams and still developing whatever. I want it to be much capability. Tried and tested.
Yep.
They'll roll it out. So by December 31, we finished a year early. So that 20 and some. So dropping the mic on that one.
Yeah. But the things that we've already had some discussions around what Teams is going to do for Supreme Courts, and we're now talking about the really advanced. You've seen some of the advanced workloads in Teams today. Things like now just about all the sessions in courts are on video, right?
So So alongside the digital transformation of we also have another network, the courts. So the actual courtrooms sit on their own. We've got a program underway, like I said, with Telstra and Energy to refit out all 31 courtrooms and new AV over IP technology. Yes, we do video and audio record in a courtroom. It's all transcribed as well.
And that's the bits we talked about, right? So when you start to dig under the covers of where Teams is going with the AI in terms of the transcription, the way that smart broadcasting is working and intelligent broadcasting work, this is the edge of where the real value and the full adoption of Teams is, and this is where I sort of see eventually the courts going, right?
So we do run e-hearings as well. So keep up with the demand of the court because it's appreciate population is growing. Access to justice is very important to the court as well as timely justice. So latest justice don't want to be accused of waiting. Sometimes you wait. Go to court. So the only way we can meet that demand, we don't just go back to government and say, hey, can you build us a new courthouse? Much. Only way you can meet demand. So we also run e-hearings. So our judges, no one is in a courtroom at all, they're in chambers where people dial in, the practitioners dial into a call. We describe it, it's being recorded and sent to the internet for open justice. And that's a hearing in and out, and no one has come to Melbourne, no one has come in their office. So that is something we are rolling out more and more because technology is the only way we're going to meet that demand. With the in-court technology, it means not having to. You have to drive on the corner of Lonsdale and William at those end up waiting to go in. Sometimes they're there for it. And then they have to sit in the truck and wait to the end of the day and go all the way back to. So it's cutting out that transport cost. Technology is now good enough that we can see the beads of sweat on your forehead. For that, the technology wasn't good enough for someone to. So it's all of those products that we have deployed and that you guys are all looking at and have done so, that now we're using what to set up and to give people their day in court a lot earlier than we could.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Pauline.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. We have come to the end of the presentation today. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to our sponsors, Poly, Microsoft and Telstra. We now have, we still have the coffee and we've got a bit of lunch outside, so feel free to continue having those conversations outside. And in future, we also will be having more events under JascoAdapt. So on the back of your lanyards, I've got a QR code. If you just want to scan that and follow us on LinkedIn, that way you'll always be up to date with what we've got upcoming and all our future events. So thank you so much.